friends, how are you guys doing today? I hope everybody's having a great day. Hope you had a great weekend. I know it's Tuesday. We skipped yesterday because I was feeling a little under the weather and whatnot. But guys, we are back. Thank you so much for stopping in, hanging out with me for just a few minutes. Today, we are going to be talking about a movie from 2023 directed by Sally Aitken. And this is called Hot Potato, the story of the Wiggles. Now, before we dive in, hit that like and subscribe button because we're going to talk about a toddler culture phenomenon, I guess. So, for anybody that doesn't know who the Wiggles are, they are a Australian band group of people, kind of like, like the Beatles for kids in a way, in my opinion. They just, I guess for us old people, they would be more like Teletubbies or Barney or, something like that. But they're based in Australia. And the thing is, these guys are like ridiculously famous over there, right? And my kids, my oldest child is 14 years old. And both of my children grew up watching the Wiggles on Sprout and different, toddler-centric, kid-centric, TV channels. And the funny thing is, they loved the Wiggles. They would dance, they would sing, they do the motions, like any toddlers do when they're playing and doing all that. But as parents, I got into the songs. There's a song called Emma's Yellow Bow or Emma's Special Bow, something like that. I catch myself singing that to this day, man. I really do. So their songs are super catchy. They're really, really kind of colorful. They do a lot of, song and dance and different skits and stuff. But what this film explores is like where they came from, who they are personally, and what the Wiggles have done through the years. I didn't realize this, but the Wiggles have been around since like the early to mid 90s, I think. And they didn't actually take off in America until about the mid 2000s, right before, I say mid 2000s, it's more like mid 2010s. They didn't really take off over here until, it was the early 2000s because they were over here doing a tour when 9/11 happened. And after that, they did not feel safe traveling and coming back over here to extend the tour and all that stuff. So, they didn't really take off in the States until after 9/11. But their programming has been, on, like I said, Sprout. They were on Disney Channel for a little while. They really have kind of extended themselves into the graces of the world in a way. And I love the story behind some of these people. They all met in college. They were all in like I don't want to say like a ska group, but it was very kind of like punk pop. And they were all in this group and they would sing, different songs and stuff like that. But they also were in college together and they were all studying early childhood education and child psychology. And so I also find it really kind of cool. So Anthony Fields he's the blue Wiggle. If you guys are in, if you know anything about the Wiggles, they're all like color coded, right? There's the blue, the orange, and they do the color coding. So because, toddlers and stuff, they don't know names, right? But they know their color. They'll be like, oh, that's the blue one. They like the blue one. So it's easier for them to identify, hey, that's the Wiggle that I like, even though I don't know his name or her name. Excuse me. And so, Anthony Fields was in this, and he and his brother started the band. They were all in the band together, and then they met Murray, and they all were in this, what was their name, the Cockroaches or something like that. It was something like really silly name. And they wound up making this music. But the thing is, I've always kind of pictured children's entertainers, people who really entertain kids. I've always seen them as they're either super creepy or they're like really, really nice, like Mr. Rogers. And I think that Anthony Fields personally is super cool like Mr. Rogers, right? He's like the Australian Mr. Rogers in a way because he was in the Australian military before he went to college, before he went to, formed the band and all that stuff. He was in the Australian military as like a rifleman. And so he has tats and like military tattoos and stuff on his arms and shoulders and stuff like that. But when he's dressed as the Wiggle, they wear shirts down to here. And he's so wholesome that you would never know that he was a soldier. You would never know that he was, a man's man kind of thing. Because, when I'm looking at the Wiggles, I'm not thinking this guy could, pick me off at 150 yards. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking this dude is doing a little jig, a little Irish folk dance, and playing the bagpipes. That's what I'm thinking. But I love hearing all the different Wiggles members' backstories. That's cool. And then we get to later in their future, they face some backlash because at first they were all men. All the Wiggles were men, just, blue, yellow, green, purple, whatever they were all guys. Then they incorporated Emma, which is the red-haired, she was the yellow Wiggle. They incorporated her into it. But then after COVID hit, and I guess we became, I don't want to say woke, but everyone became so politically correct and didn't want to offend, and they wanted to be diverse, and they want to include people. They want to be inclusive to everybody. There became more Wiggles, and more Wiggles of different colors, different genders, different, I guess, religious background. I don't know, but I'm just saying there's a bunch of different Wiggles, and they got a lot of backlash for that because I'm guessing Australia is also racist like the United States, and we just, they were like, oh, I can't believe blah, 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 just that colonial mindset. And it was really kind of, when I was watching the documentary, I was like, man, I didn't realize what kind of backlash these guys faced after COVID for being inclusive, because let's face it, Sesame Street, inclusive. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, inclusive. The man in the 60s washed his feet with the black mailman to show inclusion, that everybody's loved, right? We all love Mr. Rogers for that. So for people to get so, I guess, offended and upset about the Wiggles including everybody, it's just kind of asinine to me. That doesn't make any sense. We should all love one another, despite color, creed, whatever. We should all try to coexist, love one another. And the fact that people get so upset about that, that I guess that speaks volumes about Australia maybe. I don't know. But I love the Wiggles. I thought it was a fantastic documentary. I thought it was and it was very well shot. It had a lot of good behind-the-scenes footage, a lot of personal footage. We also find out that Anthony, his daughter, is also a blue Wiggle now. So it's like a family enterprise. They're bringing everybody in, And then we also see that, some of the Wiggles get replaced because they're getting older. They're getting health issues and stuff like that. Then they have a reunion tour like they're the Beatles, the Toddler Beatles. It's just a fantastic documentary. If your kids watch the Wiggles at all ever, or if you know who the Wiggles are, this is definitely something you should check out. I checked it out on Prime Video, on Amazon Prime. I give it 2 thumbs up. Fantastic documentary, like I said. I hope you guys enjoy it if you do check it out. That's it for it. Hit that like and subscribe button on the way out, my friends. I love y'all. I'm going to keep making them as long as you keep watching them. Peace out. God bless you, and I will see you soon.